Have you ever stopped to wonder why so many men struggle to express what they truly feel? What if I told you that a man who is deeply in love has probably already revealed his heart, just not in a way most people recognize? The human mind often speaks through patterns instead of direct words. Real emotions appear in small actions, repeated habits, and quiet moments that seem ordinary on the surface. That is especially true when it comes to love. Many men are not taught to openly describe everything happening inside them. Instead of making dramatic speeches, they communicate through consistency, attention, and subtle phrases that carry much more meaning than they appear to. Most people are waiting to hear a perfect love confession, but they overlook the quiet language of devotion. They expect grand romance while he offers steady presence. They search for excitement while he quietly builds trust. The truth is that until we become aware of these hidden patterns, we often misunderstand the people who care about us the most. Today, we're going to bring those hidden messages into the light, because the man in your life, or perhaps the man who will enter your life one day, may already be showing you exactly how he feels. He's simply speaking a language that many people were never taught to understand. Stay with me until the end, because each idea builds on the one before it, and one simple sentence could completely change how you see love forever. Many people believe love always sounds dramatic. Movies have taught us to expect emotional speeches, unforgettable declarations, and unforgettable moments filled with perfect words. Real life is usually very different. A man who truly loves someone often doesn't stand in front of the world announcing his feelings. He doesn't always post endless messages or constantly repeat the words, "I love you." Instead, he reveals himself in much quieter ways. He says ordinary things that seem almost too simple to matter. Yet hidden inside those simple words is an entire emotional world. That is why so many women accidentally miss the signs. They hear the sentence but never hear the feeling behind it. They notice the words but overlook the courage it took for him to say them. Love often speaks softly before it ever speaks loudly. It grows through trust before it grows through romance. It appears through reliability before it appears through passion. Once you understand this, you'll begin noticing signals that may have been right in front of you all along. Keep watching, because the next part explains why these small phrases carry far more weight than expensive gifts or dramatic promises ever could. Today, I want to share 7 simple phrases that often appear only when a man's feelings have become genuine and deeply rooted. None of them sound especially poetic. Some may even seem completely ordinary, like something you've heard 100 times before. But that is exactly why they matter. Their power isn't found only in the words themselves. It comes from the moment he chooses to say them, the emotion behind his voice, the consistency of his actions afterward, and the quiet changes you begin noticing in his behavior. Anyone can memorize beautiful lines. Anyone can repeat romantic quotes. But real love slowly changes the way someone behaves every single day. Think about nature for a moment. Every living thing has its own way of expressing itself. Not every strong creature makes the same sound. Not every powerful force announces its arrival with noise. In the same way, a man who truly loves someone doesn't always speak in obvious ways. Instead, he begins breaking old emotional habits. He becomes more open than he has ever been before. He starts sharing pieces of himself that he once kept hidden. That quiet transformation is often far more meaningful than the perfect sentence you've been waiting to hear. Don't skip ahead, because the first phrase surprises almost everyone who hears it. Before we continue, let me ask you something. If anything you've heard already feels familiar, if it reminds you of someone or helps you understand a relationship in a new way, take a moment to support this video. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next conversation. Every video is created with one purpose: helping people understand love, relationships, and human behavior more clearly. Sometimes one new perspective changes years of confusion. Sometimes one simple realization answers questions that have remained unsolved for a very long time. And today's discussion may become one of those moments. By the time you hear the very first phrase, you may suddenly remember conversations that once seemed completely ordinary. You may realize someone was expressing deep affection without ever using the exact words you expected. Once you notice these patterns, it becomes difficult to ignore them. They begin appearing everywhere, quietly revealing emotions that were hidden in plain sight. So ask yourself one question before we begin. Is real love measured only by beautiful words, or is it revealed by the quiet promises someone keeps every single day? A person's greatest strength is not only what they can carry alone, it is also discovering who they trust enough to carry part of that weight beside them. And that brings us to the first simple phrase that means far more than it appears. What do you think? At first, those words sound ordinary. You've probably heard them while sharing coffee, driving somewhere together, or during a quiet evening when he's casually looking at his phone. Maybe he asked without much emotion, almost as if it was just another conversation. But don't rush past that moment. When a man truly cares about you, those 4 simple words can carry incredible meaning. They are often much more than a request for advice. They are a quiet invitation into his inner world. Many men grow up believing they should solve every problem alone. They learn to make decisions without asking for help. They convince themselves that strength means always having the answers. So when he turns toward you and sincerely asks, "What do you think?" something important is happening beneath the surface. He is lowering his guard. He is allowing your thoughts to influence his own. That isn't weakness, it's trust. Imagine someone who has spent years carrying every responsibility by himself, suddenly choosing to share the weight with another person. He's saying, your perspective matters because you matter. Even if he's asking about something small, don't ignore the deeper message. Stay with me because the next few minutes may completely change the way you hear these everyday conversations. You might think, he only asked which jacket looks better, or he wanted my opinion about dinner. Maybe that's true, but real meaning is rarely hidden inside the question itself. It's hidden in the way he waits for your answer. Watch his eyes. Listen to the calmness in his voice. Notice whether he truly pauses instead of interrupting you. Does he seriously consider what you say before making a choice? If he does, then the conversation is no longer about clothes, food, or simple decisions. It's about inviting you into his life. He's no longer protecting every corner of his world from outside influence. Instead, he's creating room for your ideas beside his own. That's one of the quietest forms of emotional closeness. A man who values your opinion is showing that your mind has become part of his future. He isn't giving away control, he's choosing partnership, and those are 2 very different things. Think about that for a moment. How often do people truly allow someone else to shape their thinking? Very rarely. That's why this simple sentence can reveal much more than a dramatic declaration ever could. Keep watching because the next phrase carries an even deeper kind of trust. There was a woman named Mara who had shared life with her partner for many years. One afternoon they were talking about retirement, future plans, and everything that would come after decades of hard work. In the middle of the conversation, he quietly looked at her and asked, "What do you think I should do?" Later, she said that moment touched her more deeply than expensive gifts or romantic surprises ever had. Why? Because she realized he wasn't simply asking for advice. He couldn't picture his future without hearing her voice first. That single question made her feel included in every chapter that was still waiting ahead. Sometimes love isn't found in dramatic speeches. Sometimes it appears in one honest sentence spoken at exactly the right time. So the next time a man sincerely asks for your opinion, don't answer too quickly. Pause. Feel the meaning underneath the words. He may actually be saying, "I trust your judgment. I value your wisdom. I want you walking beside me." Never underestimate the influence your calm voice can have in someone's life. Your perspective may become the direction that helps him move forward when everything else feels uncertain. And what comes next reveals an even more personal layer of love, because now he stops talking about decisions and begins talking about himself. I had a rough day. At first glance, that sentence sounds almost too ordinary to matter. He walks through the door, sets down his keys, rubs his forehead, takes a slow breath, and quietly says those few words. Many people hear it as nothing more than a complaint, but sometimes it's much more than that. For many men, admitting emotional exhaustion doesn't come naturally. They often feel responsible for staying strong, solving problems, protecting others, and carrying stress without letting anyone notice. They keep moving even when life becomes overwhelming. That's why those simple words deserve your attention. When he says, "I had a rough day," he isn't always asking for solutions. He isn't looking for someone to fix everything. More often, he's allowing you to see a side of himself that very few people ever see. He's saying, "I'm tired, I'm carrying more than usual, and I trust you enough not to hide it." That kind of honesty takes courage. Stay with me, because the next part explains why your response in that moment can strengthen a relationship more than you realize. Many people accidentally miss this opportunity. They rush to solve every problem or quickly change the subject. But real connection often grows inside quiet moments. You don't always need perfect advice. You don't need motivational speeches or instant answers. Sometimes the greatest gift you can offer is simply your presence. Sit beside him, listen without rushing. Let the silence breathe instead of filling every second with questions. Some men don't express emotions through long conversations. Instead, they show trust by choosing where they rest after carrying the weight of the day. If he feels comfortable sitting beside you after everything becomes difficult, that says more than many love letters ever could. He's telling you that your presence feels peaceful, that your company gives him permission to stop pretending everything is fine. Never overlook that kind of openness. A man who shares his stress instead of hiding it is quietly placing his heart in safe hands. And then love speaks in another unexpected way. Not through emotional conversations this time, but through something much smaller that most people would never even notice. "I like how you arranged this." It sounds like nothing special. Maybe you moved a chair, organized a shelf, placed flowers on the table, or shifted a few decorations until the room felt warmer. He walks in, notices the change, smiles softly, and says he likes it. Most people hear only a compliment, but there is often something much deeper happening underneath. For many men, their personal space reflects how they organize their life. Their room, office, workshop, or favorite chair becomes part of their identity. It represents comfort, routine, and control. So when he welcomes your touch, instead of resisting it, he's revealing something important. He's allowing your presence to become part of his everyday world. It's no longer just his space. Little by little, it becomes a shared place. You're no longer simply visiting his life, you're becoming woven into it. One woman named Simone noticed this after making a few small changes in her partner's kitchen. Nothing dramatic. Just a better arrangement that made everything feel easier. When he came home, he looked around for a moment, smiled quietly, and said, "I really like how you set this up." It wasn't about cabinets or dishes, it was about acceptance. Without realizing it, he had welcomed her influence into a part of his world he once protected. And sometimes those quiet moments reveal love more clearly than words ever can. Don't miss what comes next, because the following phrase is even more surprising and even more powerful. She almost brushed the moment aside. It seemed like nothing more than a casual compliment. But a few weeks later, he smiled, looked around the room, and quietly said, "That was the day I realized I could let someone into my life without feeling like I was losing who I am." Those words stayed with her because they had nothing to do with furniture or decoration. They were about trust. They were about making room for another person without fear. That is why moments like these should never be ignored. When a man welcomes your touch into the life he carefully built, he is revealing something much deeper than appreciation. He is showing acceptance. He's saying your presence doesn't disturb his peace. It adds to it. Suddenly, the place that once belonged only to him begins carrying small signs of you. Your favorite mug appears in the cupboard, a blanket you like stays folded on the couch, snacks you enjoy quietly find their place in the kitchen. These changes seem tiny, yet together they tell a much bigger story. They say, "You belong here." Real love rarely arrives with fireworks every day. More often, it grows through these quiet choices that slowly become part of everyday life. Don't miss this because the next sign is even more meaningful. Without making a grand announcement, he begins talking about tomorrow, and what sounds like an ordinary question may actually reveal the direction of his heart. What are you doing tomorrow? At first, it sounds like a simple question. Maybe he's wondering if you're free for lunch, a walk, or a quick cup of coffee. But if his feelings are genuine, there is often much more behind those words than scheduling. Time is one of the most valuable things anyone can offer. Every person has responsibilities, goals, routines, and dreams competing for attention. So when someone repeatedly chooses to include you in their future, even if it's only tomorrow or next weekend, they're showing that your presence has become part of the life they're building. He isn't simply checking your calendar. He's seeing whether your paths can continue moving together. Every invitation carries a quiet message. Come with me this weekend. Let's plan something next month. Would you like to join me? These aren't just plans, they're emotional investments. They reveal that when he imagines his future, even the near future, you naturally appear inside it. Stay with me because understanding this small pattern can completely change the way you interpret ordinary conversations. There was a woman named Tara who used to become frustrated because her boyfriend constantly asked what she was doing the next day. Sometimes there weren't even definite plans. She wondered if he was simply being overly involved. Then one evening he smiled and said, "I just like knowing where you are because it helps me feel connected to you." In that moment, everything made sense. It wasn't about keeping track of her. It wasn't about control. It was about closeness. Knowing she was part of his tomorrow gave him comfort. That's why you should pay attention when someone consistently includes you in upcoming moments. They're quietly testing what everyday life feels like with you beside them. Love isn't built only through anniversaries or vacations. It's built one tomorrow at a time, one invitation after another, one ordinary afternoon that slowly becomes part of a shared future. So the next time he casually asks about your weekend or wonders if you're free next week, don't dismiss it as small talk. He may be revealing that his heart has already begun making room for you long before either of you says it out loud, and then something even more meaningful happens. He stops pretending he has every answer. "I don't know what to do." Those words sound surprisingly simple, yet they often carry enormous emotional weight. Many people hear uncertainty and immediately think of weakness or confusion. But sometimes this sentence reveals exactly the opposite. Many men spend years believing they should always appear confident. They feel pressure to solve problems, protect others, and keep moving forward no matter what life throws at them. Because of that, admitting uncertainty can feel incredibly uncomfortable. So when he looks at you and quietly says, "I don't know what to do," don't hear failure, hear trust. He's allowing you to see the part of himself that usually stays hidden, the part that has questions instead of answers, the part that feels overwhelmed instead of certain. That isn't easy for anyone. It requires honesty, humility, and emotional safety. He's no longer trying to impress you with perfection. Instead, he's inviting you into a moment where he simply wants to be understood. Don't rush to judge that vulnerability. Don't assume he expects you to fix everything. Sometimes all he really needs is someone willing to stay beside him while he finds his own direction. Keep watching because the next phrase may be the quietest expression of love yet, and it's one that almost everyone overlooks until it's too late.